Have you noticed that certain firearms are disappearing from store shelves again? If you've been to a gun shop recently, you might have seen empty racks, long wait times, or even limits on how much ammo you can buy. It feels like déjà vu, doesn't it? Well, there's a reason for that. Fear buying is back, and this time, the panic isn't hitting every part of the gun market. It's targeted, precise, and driven by a different kind of urgency. We saw this happen in 2020, when the pandemic, riots, and political instability sent Americans scrambling to arm themselves. But now, something else is fueling the surge. So, what's happening? Why are people stockpiling guns and ammo again? And more importantly, what does it mean for the firearm industry, for your local stores, and for the future of gun ownership in America? Today, I'm diving deep into this trend. We'll break down the rise and fall of gun sales over the past few years. What's causing this new wave of firearm stockpiling? Which guns and ammo are disappearing the fastest? Whether you're a seasoned gun owner, a first-time buyer, or just someone trying to make sense of what's going on, stick with me. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear picture of where we're headed. To understand what's happening now, we need to rewind a bit. Before 2020, the firearms industry was actually in decline. Sales had slumped under the Trump administration, a trend the industry called the Trump slump. Gun owners weren't worried about new restrictions, so demand dropped. Some manufacturers even struggled to stay afloat. Then, everything changed in early 2020. When COVID hit, people panicked. Grocery stores were wiped out, and right after that, gun stores saw the same thing. Massive lines, empty shelves, and record-breaking sales. But that was just the beginning. In May 2020, the George Floyd protests and widespread unrest sent fear levels through the roof. People lost trust in law enforcement and took their safety into their own hands. By the end of the year, the FBI had processed 39.7 million background checks and an estimated 21 million firearms had been sold. Even more shocking, up to 40% of those buyers were first-timers. But like any boom, this one couldn't last forever. By 2023, gun sales had cooled off significantly, though not to pre-pandemic levels. The industry found a new baseline, with demand settling about 20 to 30% higher than 2019 figures. For a while, it looked like the market had stabilized, but now something's changed. Sales are spiking again, not across the board, but in very specific categories. It's not panic buying like we saw in 2020, it's strategic stockpiling. And that tells me one thing: people aren't just buying because they can, they're buying because they feel like they have to. So, what's the proof that fear buying is back? Well, let's start with the numbers. The FBI's background check data shows a clear pattern. In late 2023, checks started rising again. October saw a 7.14% increase over September, nearly 4 times the normal month-to-month bump. And this isn't happening evenly across the country. Some places, like Washington State, had seen sales drop to 15-year lows, but now gun stores there are packed again. Down south, border states are seeing similar trends. I talked to a shop owner in Texas who told me, "We've had ebbs and flows since 2020, but this is different. People aren't just buying guns, they're looking for specific models and they're asking for them by name." It's not just stores. Look at online activity. Over the past 3 months, Google searches for best gun for home defense and gun shortage coming have jumped 43%. Ammo retailers are reporting sales spikes that look eerily similar to what happened in early 2020. But here's the part that really gets me. The type of buyer has changed. Gun shop owners are seeing a new wave of customers, people who never considered owning a firearm before. They're not collectors. They're not enthusiasts. They're walking in and saying things like, "I never thought I'd need a gun, but I do now." That's a major shift. This isn't about politics or hobbyists driving up demand. It's about everyday Americans deciding that personal protection isn't optional anymore. And that's exactly why this trend could be here to stay. So now we know that fear buying is back. But what's causing it this time? The pandemic is over, the riots have settled, and we're not in the middle of an election. So why are people stocking up on guns and ammo like never before? The answer isn't simple. In fact, there are several key reasons why people feel the need to buy firearms right now, and when you put them all together, you get a perfect storm for another surge in gun sales. If there's one thing that fuels gun sales like nothing else, it's the fear of new laws. Even though the White House isn't openly pushing for sweeping gun bans, the state-level battle over firearms is heating up. Right now, several states, including Colorado, Illinois, and Washington, are proposing or implementing stricter gun laws. When that happens, people panic. They rush out to buy whatever they think might be restricted next. We saw this before with AR-15s and pistol braces, and we're seeing it again now with handguns, home defense shotguns, and standard capacity magazines. And let's not forget about Project 2025, the controversial policy plan that's making waves in the political world. Even though the White House has distanced itself from it, the mere mention of federal-level changes to gun laws is enough to send buyers into action, whether they're trying to stock up before a ban or because they believe the government is about to change its stance on the Second Amendment. This might be the biggest factor of all. People don't feel safe anymore. Recent surveys show that 88% of Americans are anxious about rising crime, and almost half of gun owners say they're carrying their firearms more often than before. It's not just paranoia. Violent crime is up in many major cities, and high-profile cases of home invasions, carjackings, and random attacks have made people rethink their personal safety. I've talked to gun shop owners who say their customers aren't just buying guns for fun or sport anymore. They're buying because they genuinely believe they'll need to use them. That's a major shift in mindset from just a few years ago. There's another more subtle factor at play here. People are losing faith in the government and law enforcement. According to a Cambridge University study, new gun owners are more likely to distrust government institutions and hold self-reliance beliefs. That means they're not just buying guns as a hobby. They're buying them because they don't believe that help will be there when they need it. We saw this after 2020. Many first-time buyers back then weren't just reacting to the pandemic. They were reacting to the breakdown of social order. And now, with tensions high and institutions struggling to maintain trust, people are making the same decision all over again. If I can't rely on anyone else to protect me, I need to be able to protect myself. So, when you add it all up, political uncertainty, rising crime, and a growing sense of self-reliance, it's no wonder that gun sales are climbing again. And that brings us to the big question: what exactly are people buying? Not all guns are selling out. This time, people aren't buying at random. They're choosing specific firearms that they believe they'll need for self-defense. Right now, the hottest firearms on the market are compact 9mm pistols. Models like the Glock 19, Sig Sauer P365, and Smith & Wesson M and P9M2.0 are flying off the shelves. And it makes sense. These guns are perfect for concealed carry, widely available, and legal even in states with restrictive gun laws. Gun shop owners I've spoken with say these handguns are often selling out within hours of arriving in stock. People aren't waiting. They're walking in, asking for a specific model, and buying it on the spot. Home defense shotguns are in high demand. Another category seeing a spike: tactical shotguns. The Mossberg 590, Remington 870, and Benelli M4 are some of the most sought-after models. These are classic home defense weapons, and when people feel like crime is rising, they want something reliable, powerful, and easy to use. One gun shop owner told me that even people who already own handguns are coming back to buy a shotgun for home defense. That tells me that people aren't just panic buying anymore. They're thinking strategically. We've seen demand for AR-15s and AK-style rifles go up and down over the years, usually depending on the political climate. Right now, these rifles are getting more attention again, especially in states where new bans are being discussed. People remember what happened in 2020, when AR-15s became almost impossible to find, and they don't want to get caught unprepared again. Here's the part that might hit gun owners the hardest. Ammo is starting to sell out again. The most in-demand calibers: 9mm for handguns, 45 ACP and 357 Magnum for self-defense revolvers, 12-gauge buckshot for shotguns. We're not at full-blown 2020 levels yet, but prices are climbing, and some shops are already putting limits on how much customers can buy. One of the most interesting trends I've noticed: more people are buying accessories, optics, holsters, weapon lights, and safes than ever before. This tells me that it's not just new gun owners driving this wave. It's also people who bought their first gun in 2020 finally upgrading their gear. They might have started with just a basic firearm, but now they're investing in red dot sights, weapon-mounted lights, and better storage solutions. Gun ownership in America has changed a lot in the past 5 years. If you still picture the stereotypical gun owner as an older white guy in a rural town, think again. The face of firearm ownership has shifted dramatically, and the numbers prove it. Since 2020, over 26 million Americans have bought a gun for the first time. That's more than the entire population of Florida. And it's not just the number that's surprising, it's who is buying. Women are leading the charge. Female gun ownership has skyrocketed, increasing by 177% since 1993, with the biggest jump happening during the pandemic years. And it's not just about small purse guns or pink revolvers. Women are buying full-size defensive pistols, shotguns, and AR-15s. They're taking self-defense seriously, and many are signing up for training courses to make sure they know exactly how to use their firearms. African American gun ownership has also surged. The National African American Gun Association has over 40,000 members now, and many of them are women. In fact, Black women are the fastest growing demographic of new gun owners. That's a major shift from just a decade ago, when gun culture wasn't as widely embraced in these communities. Hispanic and Asian Americans are also buying guns at higher rates than ever before. Hispanic gun ownership has grown 33% in just the past 6 years, and Asian American ownership saw a 43% jump during the pandemic. The biggest takeaway from all of this? Gun ownership isn't just for rural conservatives anymore. Suburban and urban areas are seeing more buyers than ever, and people from all backgrounds are realizing that self-defense is a universal right. And here's something else that stands out. These new gun owners aren't just impulse buyers. Nearly half of them seek professional training after purchasing their first firearm, and 23% return to buy another gun within their first year. That tells me these aren't people buying out of panic. They're buying because they've made a serious long-term decision about their personal safety. This shift in demographics is one of the biggest reasons why I don't think this fear-buying surge will just disappear overnight. This isn't like past cycles where demand was driven only by hardcore gun enthusiasts. We're seeing everyday people, teachers, business owners, single moms, deciding that they need to take their protection into their own hands. And once someone makes that decision, they don't usually go back. Gun manufacturers learned a hard lesson from the last big boom and bust cycle. Back in 2020, they ramped up production as fast as possible, trying to meet demand. But when sales slowed down in 2022 and 2023, many companies were stuck with excess inventory. This time, they're being more cautious. Instead of increasing production across the board, manufacturers are focusing on the guns that are in consistently high demand: compact 9mm pistols, home defense shotguns, and some AR-15 models. They don't want to overproduce and get burned again if the market slows down. Ammunition companies are also adjusting. While firearm imports have actually declined by 10% compared to last year, ammo imports are up 9%. That tells me something important. Gun companies are preparing for sustained demand, especially for consumables like ammunition. It also suggests that manufacturers think people are more likely to keep the guns they already own and spend money on training, upgrades, and accessories rather than just buying more firearms. Retailers are playing it smart too. Many gun shops have switched to just-in-time inventory systems, meaning they don't keep large amounts of stock on hand. Instead, they order based on what's selling, keeping their supply chain flexible. That's why you're seeing certain models sell out so quickly. If a gun shop only gets a handful of Glock 19s in each shipment, they're gone the same day. There's also been a shift in how retailers are selling. More stores are requiring customers to sign up for notifications when a new shipment arrives. Others are offering pre-orders or VIP programs where regular customers get priority access to inventory. Gun stores and manufacturers know they're walking a fine line. They don't want to overproduce and crash the market again, but they also don't want to leave customers empty-handed. So instead of flooding the shelves with product, they're managing their stock carefully, keeping the supply chain lean and efficient. All of this tells me one thing. This isn't just another short-term spike. The industry is adapting for long-term sustained demand, and they're betting that people will keep buying, training, and upgrading for years to come. That's the big question, isn't it? Is this just another short-lived wave? Or are we looking at a permanent shift in the American gun market? The truth is, No one can predict the future with certainty, but experts are divided on what happens next. Some believe that because so many people have already bought firearms in the past few years, there just isn't enough room left for major growth. Unlike in 2020, when millions of first-time buyers flooded the market, the customer base is now saturated, or at least that's what some analysts argue. But others think this trend has staying power. According to research from Cambridge University, once someone buys their first firearm, they are far more likely to buy additional guns and invest in training and accessories over time. That suggests the market isn't just about new buyers, but also repeat buyers who are expanding their collections. Another factor to consider is politics. Gun sales tend to drop under Republican leadership and spike under Democratic leadership because people fear new regulations. But in today's environment, that pattern may not hold. The state-level battles over gun control are keeping demand high, and events like high-profile crimes or policy proposals can trigger another wave of buying at any moment. Then there's the economy. Historically, when financial uncertainty increases, so does defensive firearm buying. If inflation, job losses, or economic instability get worse, people may see a firearm as one of the few assets worth owning. My take: this isn't just a temporary fear-buying spike. The numbers suggest we're seeing a long-term shift where more Americans than ever believe that owning a gun is a necessity, not a luxury. The industry knows it, retailers know it, and most importantly, gun owners know it. If you're watching this, you're probably wondering, what should I do? Should I be buying now? Should I wait? The answer depends on your situation, but one thing is clear: this is not the time to panic buy. It's the time to prepare smartly and think strategically. If you're considering purchasing a firearm, don't just rush to grab whatever is left on the shelf. Focus on practical, reliable options that will serve you well in the long run. Compact 9mm handguns are still the best choice for concealed carry and personal defense. Home defense shotguns are another great option if you want something simple and effective. And if you're in a state that's considering restrictions, you may want to think about getting that AR-15 before the laws change. One mistake I see people making is spending all their money on guns and none on training. Let me tell you right now, the best investment you can make isn't another firearm, it's training. Owning a gun doesn't automatically make you safer. Knowing how to use it under stress does. If you've never taken a defensive shooting course, now is the time. Find a local trainer, book a class, and get some real-world experience under your belt. And let's talk about security. If you're adding firearms to your home, you need to think about safe storage. That doesn't mean locking everything away where you can't access it in an emergency. It means having a plan. Get a quality, quick access safe for your defensive firearms. If you have kids, take extra precautions. The last thing you want is to be part of the statistic of stolen guns ending up in criminal hands. This is also the time to build your network. If you're new to gun ownership, find people who can help guide you. Join a local shooting club, connect with experienced gun owners, and get involved in your local 2A community. The more you learn, the more confident and prepared you'll be. There's a reason people are buying guns right now. They see what's happening. The world feels unpredictable, and in times like these, preparation is everything. So don't wait until it's too late. Make a plan, train smart, and stay ahead of the curve. So what have we learned? Fear buying is back, but it's different this time. People aren't just panic buying, they're making calculated decisions about their safety. Compact 9mm handguns, tactical shotguns, and AR-15s are disappearing from shelves. Ammunition shortages are creeping back in. And the biggest change? Gun ownership isn't just for the stereotypical buyer anymore. Women, minorities, and urban residents are all part of this new wave, and they're taking firearm ownership seriously. This trend isn't just another short-term spike. The reasons behind it, political uncertainty, rising crime, and distrust in institutions, aren't going away anytime soon. If anything, they're getting worse, and that means the demand for firearms and training will likely remain high for the foreseeable future. If you're thinking about buying a gun, do it wisely. Focus on what's practical, train with it, and make sure you have the gear and knowledge to use it effectively. If you already own guns, now's the time to stock up on ammo, improve your training, and refine your self-defense plan. I want to hear from you. Have you noticed shortages in your area? Have you seen more first-time buyers at your local range? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, Hit that like button and subscribe for more updates on the firearms market, self-defense tips, and Second Amendment news. Stay prepared, stay vigilant, and as always, stay safe.